Welcome, everyone, to the Rise podcast. Kwesi Millington, I'm your host here. I'm here with One, and it's spelled OANH, pronounced One. I hope I got it correctly. And thank you, first of all, for being on the podcast. I'm going to read your introduction really quickly, and then we're going to get into it. So, One is a multidimensional transformation coach and oracle. I'm going to need explanations on some of these. Guided by her fierce guardian angel, she serves as a spiritual guide and tarot reader for her querents. I need a definition for that word too. She is a certified life coach, NLP, neuro linguistic programming, I think, practitioner, and an image consultant with over a decade of experience as a highly skilled makeup artist and hairstylist who specializes in both inner and outer beauty. I'm going to go with that for now, and as we go on, I may ask you some of the other things that you sent to me as far as your biography. But welcome, and my first question to you is: what is an oracle and what is a querent? Querents. Never heard that word before.
Yeah, great question. So in Oracle, there's a couple of different meanings for it, but how it's relevant to me is basically a person who has done the work, who's done the inner work, who's in tune with their spirituality and has tapped into an inner wisdom. So I've always been a deep thinker. I've always been a truth seeker. And through the adversities of my life, I've gained a lot of insight and wisdom. And so I'm able to use what I've learned to guide others. And I'm also an intuitive empath, so it allows me to access different parts of me that give me insight for other people as well. So basically an oracle is just someone who possesses wisdom that's able to share their insight, in short. And then a querent is referred to tarot reading. So I'm also a tarot reader. And the querent is the client who comes to seek their truth.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to dive a little deeper into that. So first, the querent. So tarot reader, if I know correctly, that's when you have the cards that have a certain theme, and you help the person that comes in to decipher what that theme means in their life. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
I mean, there's different ways to read a spread, but in essence, the querent would usually come to a tarot reader with some sort of and they don't have to have a specific question in mind. They could just be curious of what the future holds. And the way I offer my tarot reading, and I always say it at the beginning, that and I like to start with some breath work just to sync up our energy and to make sure we're in tune energetically and to create that safe and sacred space so that I can get my querent into the mindset and into the space of being connected to their spirit. Because energetically, the cards that show up during a spread are the cards that my querent is meant to see and what I'm meant to help them decipher. And I tell my querents that, you know, things that show up is a future potential. And at any given point, they have the ability to shift their future. So people will come to me with either specific questions or just a general inquiry.
Hmm. Okay,
Mhm.
and that's a perfect explanation. I think that I was a querent once because I had a friend of mine who put tarot cards in front of me, or sorry, allowed me to pick. Based
Mhm.
on what she said to me, based on what I picked, it actually led me to looking into professional speaking, and it also led me to some relationship healing within my family. So I found it very beneficial, even though it was a very informal session. It wasn't, an official paid session or anything. So I gained a lot out of that. In fact, I still have a picture of the cards she picked for me. I don't remember exactly what they are, but I keep the picture to remind me of the messages that she
Oh,
shared. Um, so
amazing.
yes, I appreciate what you do. When you say an oracle is someone who has gleaned wisdom from their adversities and shared it with others, forgive my naivete, but why isn't anyone then an oracle?
That's a really good question. I think it takes, and to be honest, for a while, it took me some time to even accept that about myself because um, truly anyone who does this, who walks the spiritual path and has fully embraced their divinity and is aware of that aspect of themselves can resonate as being an oracle. I think it's a multiple lifetime thing. Like I know, like for me, I haven't walked this earth once or twice. I've been around for a while. You know, I have an ancient soul. Um, and it's through my own soul recollection that I know that this isn't my first time being in a position of guidance and being in a position of having this connection with a higher power. So no one can tell you that you are an oracle, and no one can tell you that you're not. And in my work of being a multidimensional transformation coach, my goal is to help people embrace their divinity, live their truth, and live their best life. And I was at a point where I was like, if I'm going to be helping others do this, I need to take full responsibility of who I am and live my best life and live my fullest, most authentic truth. And that truth is an oracle. And so um, you know, it is a big, it's a big claim for some people. And it can be a big undertaking as well. But again, being in the position that I'm in and with the work that I'm called to do, it's something that don't, if I don't fully claim and embody who I say I am, because it is my truth, I would be living kind of a lie, and I'd be kind of hypocritical to be like, you should live your best life and be your most authentic self if I'm not doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I don't know if I answered your question in the most concise way, but in essence, no one can tell you that you are, and no one can tell you that you're not. It's something that you know deep within yourself, and it's a soul recollection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take me back to the recollection then. You said you've been through some adversities in your life. You weren't always this way. You weren't always so secure in what you do now. Take me back to a time where you weren't that secure and you had to find your path.
Great question. And I guess, you know, throughout my life, and this is how I know that in this lifetime I'm meant to be in a position of guiding other people, because my whole life has been full of adversities. Like I've been on my own since I was 17. I had $20 to my name. I was building my life from a deficit, living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Um,
How
in
did
my
you end
teens,
up? Let's go back here. How did you end up uh, with nothing to your name on your own at 17? Was that you moving out of home, or how did you end up in that position?
so my my family has been through a lot of struggles. So, and when I share my story, I've done the healing. I'm I feel at peace with with how my life has turned out, and this is why I know that certain things in our life are meant to help us gain more insight about who we are. So this is to like, I'm so in love with my family, and there's absolutely no shame, and as much challenges I've been through because of my family, I know it was all part of my soul evolution. So basically, our family escaped Vietnam. And so my family has endured a lot of trauma, ancestral traumas, and it led to a dysfunctional family household. And so growing up, I didn't have like a very good relationship with any of my siblings or my mom, because she was a single mom taking care of 4 kids on her own in a foreign country, learning a new language, going to school, separated from her family, you know, working through the trauma that she had to experience, escaping her own country. You know, so it was just a really unstable upbringing. And because we escaped from a war-stricken country, I feel like that contributed, and the lack of having a father figure in our life, it just created a volatile, energetic mashup. And so I happened to be, you know, the person that everyone took their frustration out on, and it created a lot of trauma for me as well. And I was suicidal at 15. Um, it was a really dark time in my life, and and because of these dark moments at a really young age, it helped me. And I didn't confide in people. I'm not a pity party. I've never been. I don't seek sympathy from people. So even at a young age, I would go about my day as if everything was okay when it really wasn't. Um, and it was, it's in our darkest days that we have the ability to shine our brightest. And it's in our darkest days that we have the opportunity to really dive deeper within ourselves, to access a wisdom that is not available on the outside. And so, because I didn't have like a confidant at a younger age, my confidant was a greater power. It was a God, and that's all I had, and that's who I communicated with. And it was through this communication with a higher power, because I'm telling you, I was like at 15, and I'm sure you realize that, like, statistically, teens have a higher rate of suicide. If they're in that space, they're
Mhm.
more likely to be to follow through. And I was really close, because it wasn't just an overnight thing. It was constant in and out of being in the state of not having any will to be here. But what saved me was my love for my youngest brother, and also I was I knew that I had so much love to offer, so much more love to give, and so it kept me going. And and I've always been journaling, and I always write down, inspirational quotes that come to me. And later on in my life, which is another can of worms, I realized that what I was actually doing was channeling information through
Mm.
my journaling, but I did it innately, because again, it's a soul recollection thing. Just because your body and your mind doesn't remember doesn't mean your soul doesn't remember. And so going through all of that, fast forward to when I'm 17, my mom was just, like, how do you raise, four kids as a single mom? And she had to do what she needed to do to, stay sane. So she decided to move to the States, and she didn't have any money to give. So I had what I had, which was $20, and I had to rock with that. And it's been rough. It
So
hasn't
sorry,
been
your
easy.
mother moved to the States and left you in Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So where is this? Vancouver that you were
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
And how old were you then?
17. So
Oh,
right
okay.
fresh
So
out of high school.
so she just moved, and where were you living? How did you fend for yourself with 20 bucks?
I worked my ass off. I worked really hard. I like picked up as many jobs as I could. I think I was pushing three jobs at the time. I was living with like two roommates. My life was volatile. It was
Hey, tell
really,
me about it.
yeah, yeah. Can you
Hmm.
imagine like teen girls living in a house unattended by adults? I had some fun moments, but um, it was definitely a part of my life that I appreciate but never have to do again. Um, but yeah, so just, like, and then from there, like, when you're building your life from a deficit, it's really hard to to get ahead in life. And so throughout these times in my life, I was also experiencing spiritual phenomenons that I had to get into terms with and accept. So that was a whole chapter in my life, that there was a part of me that was, I don't want to say in denial, but was just, I was brushing it away, and I wasn't giving it my attention, because I couldn't, because this physical world was demanding so much of me that I didn't have the energy or desire to even look at what the spiritual world was trying to communicate with me. But over time, um, I couldn't deny what I was seeing.
Hmm.
And then it led to my spiritual awakening, and then
So
that
take me through
journey.
that moment. What is the spiritual awakening? What does that look like for someone who doesn't understand it? In the world that you come from here, a lot of people may understand these terms, but
Mhm.
what does a spiritual awakening look like? What did it look like for you?
Okay, so it's different for everyone, and it can happen throughout your life. So spiritual awakening, like the pivotal moment, there will always be one pivotal moment where it shifts your whole perception and you go from either on the border or a non-believer to a full-on believer. And that moment for me was I would say it was over like about 15 years ago now. And I've always been aware of the spiritual world because of where, I'm from Vietnam. And so in our culture, the spirit world and the mundane world is like night and day. We fully accept it and embrace it as part of our culture and a part of our truth. So I had that to my benefit. But beyond that, my family isn't really, growing up, I wasn't really exposed to anything more than just that. And so I always kind of felt this pull, if you will, towards this mysterious door that is the gateway between the physical and the non-physical world. But I was too scared to really explore that even more. But leading up to my full acceptance of my spirituality and my gifts, if you will, was I was in my bedroom and I don't share this story very often because it's one of those things where it's like it's the experience and the sight is seared into my brain and my mind, and I will never forget it because it's such a magical and monumental moment. So if I break it down slowly, it's because I'm reliving it, and it's a special time in my life. But anyway, so I was in my bedroom. It was really early in the morning. I had 4 candles lit up on either side of my bed. So it lit up the room, and I was watching something. I was watching my laptop, and I could see in my peripherals the candles light up. And while I'm watching it, 2 of the candles burn out. So, and I can see it because when 4 candles lighting up the room, you can see when two
Of
candles go,
course.
it dims down, right? So in this moment, I'm like, oh, I better get up. And this is what's going through my mind. I'm like, I better get up and relight the candles. So as I get up and turn around to look at the candles, one of the burnt out candles relights on its own.
Wow.
And normally I would be really freaked out about something like that because like I said, there was this fear because I knew that they there was energies of the spirit realm that wanted to communicate with me. So but in that moment I felt this peace come over me, and I laid back down on my bed and I just took it all in, and in that moment I accepted, and I made a vow to myself that I would be the messenger, and that if spirits wanted to connect with me, I would be the messenger between the unseen and the seen world, and I would help bridge that gap.
Mm.
And so that moment for me was a like life changer for
Mm.
sure.
No kidding.
And I opened up the floodgates, let's just say that.
And how old were you when this happened?
Early 20s.
Early 20s. And then how did your
Yeah.
life change after that?
It changed in a way that was really hard, to be honest, because when I accepted this aspect of who I am, there wasn't, the internet didn't talk about it a lot. It wasn't a popular thing, like spirituality now is more mainstream. It wasn't like that for me. And so I was kind of living this like double life in secret, and it was really hard because like I couldn't just talk to anyone about it. I didn't have anyone to guide me. I didn't have a friend where I could call and be like, hey, this just happened, what does it mean? I had to figure that out all on my own. And the hard thing too is to like sometimes you question, is this real? Like, is what I'm perceiving real? And so that was a challenge, to be able to decipher and to know without a shadow of a doubt that these phenomenons are in fact happening. And what helped me was that when certain phenomenons would happen, it wasn't just me that would experience it. I would have a series of these events happen in my life with different people experiencing it with me and being like, what the heck just happened? But I would be the common denominator. So I knew that it was happening in front of my eyes and someone else's eyes, so that I knew that it wasn't a coincidence.
It was
It was
validation.
exactly, it was validation. And so that really helped me in my journey. But then of course, like, it's multi layers. And again, I had to learn a lot just from having a deep sense of awareness of myself, and having a deep connection with my soul, and also a greater power to have that communication. So yeah.
Okay.
And yeah. And sorry, and just to add to that, and like the hard part of this too was, like, sometimes when I'm able to identify something that happens before it happens, it can be a really lonely path, because then if I speak too soon, then people don't get what I'm talking about. And
Mm.
then it leaves me in a very lonely place, because now I'm not being understood, and I'm the only one that can see what's happening and no one else can see it. So it can create rifts within relationships, which is my experience. So yeah,
So you
it's
can't share
been,
everything, even if you experience it. Um,
yeah.
and then how did that lead to you becoming a coach and oracle? Like, this is something you do for other people now. This was, you're just discovering yourself. How does that transition?
Mhm.
How does that transition to doing this for other people?
Right. So it took many years of denying that. Like, I always knew, like it's something that I always knew that I was good at, because I would have a lot of friends come to me to, like, for advice, and I would just have this like calming energy. And so I already had people coming to me and making comments that I was someone that was really good to talk to. So I knew that that was a part of my path. And then when I got deeper into my spirituality, and having my communication with a higher power, you just know, it's when you're in alignment with your soul purpose, with your life calling, that's what you're meant to do. And so I just came to a place where I knew that was what I was meant to do. And again, the synchronicities would line up anytime I would have a realization. For example, with the tarot reading, I've been practicing it for just about 10 years now. But before I even started, I was like, because I'm really good at seeing signs and deciphering these signs and how and what they mean, and being able to articulate it in a way that's relevant for myself, and easy for people to understand. So I knew that I could use this skill to help other people the same way it's helped me. And the day that I was like, I need to get into tarot reading, because my because I just knew, I went to the store, and I was in a shop where they had like household items and just every knickknacks, and so it wasn't like a specific spiritual store or anything like that. It was a random general store. And that same day I went there, and I turned around. I wasn't even in the book section. I turned around randomly, and there it was, a book about tarot reading, and it was the only one there, like
Okay.
in that section. So I was like, okay, well, I'm taking this home and I'm starting my journey today. And I connected with my deck for 3 years before I even gave my first reading.
Mm.
And then when I started giving readings, the reaction and the response from people was just phenomenal. Like, I've done, I don't even know how many I've done by now, but like, I've never had a person tell me that something didn't resonate with him. I've had people cry during readings. Like, it's just been like a very um insightful, and it's an honor for me to be able to help people connect in that way and have realizations, and to offer them guidance. And so when I started experiencing this, um I wanted to offer it at scale, and not just during random moments.
Mm.
And then from there, I had to figure out a way to support people and to hold space and to do it in a way that resonates with me.
And now,
Um,
so you offer readings live and online. How do you do it now? How does your business
so
operate?
I offer it remotely. I haven't done anything in person in a couple of years since COVID started, and remotely actually works really well. So the vast majority of my readings happen remotely, and I have a ritual that I walk people through that really gets us connected. And so, yeah, it's been amazing actually to
Nice.
have that connection, because at first I was worried. I was like, am I still able to create the same experience online, not being in person? But thankfully, when you have full control of what's going on, you can create magic wherever you are, whether it's remote or not. So yeah.
And so that's awesome. You do the coaching and you do the tarot reading. I want to read this. You say you help as many souls as possible realize and embody their limitless potential. You want people to connect with and embrace their divinity, to gain unwavering confidence, look sophisticated, and reclaim their sovereignty. There's a lot there.
Yes.
One of the points you mentioned that I liked, it reminds me of, I think it was Gabby Bernstein that wrote the book, The Universe Has Your Back. And it seems like that seems to be something that comes up the more people I interview about this particular topic. The universe is going to send you signs. You're going to see things. It's just a matter of you picking up on them, and that will help guide you toward your purpose. Like you saying, okay, tarot reading, not sure, and seeing the book. So, besides recognizing signs around you, what would you say to someone who just said, you know what, I don't know what my purpose is and I want to find it? Short of like sitting down with you for a long period of time, what are some places that they can start?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I don't think there's a one size fits all. Um, I think for some people, aligning with their soul purpose can happen instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then for other people, it can take more time and more effort. I think what's important is not to compare yourself to others and to be gentle with yourself as you're on this path. But I think first and foremost, one has to want to know what their soul purpose and to be aware that they have a calling, that there is something greater than themselves that they want to discover. Um, so that's first and foremost. You need to be in alignment with wanting to be um, on point with your purpose, and then from there is just to be open to do the inner work.
What
And
does
it's
that mean?
work. It means to it means to look within, because there is an inner landscape, there is an inner world that needs to be explored, and that's where your purpose is going to come from. It's not going to come from an outside source. You can do things, you can practice things like, to help support you in that, but when it comes to finding your purpose, I think it's an inner work. And again, what that means is just to connect with yourself, connect with your inner child, and to contemplate, ask yourself deep, thought-provoking questions, and to really ponder questions that matter to you. And when I say you, of course I mean the royal you. um and to just explore that. I think that, and again, like I said earlier, there's not a one size fits all. So what works for one person is not going to work for another person. So it's important to have a strong sense of self-awareness, so that you can guide yourself into the direction that's going to suit your needs and suit your personality type.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
I like I'm a tangible guy. I like, okay, tell me what to do. And that's the way I am in business too. I hire my coaches and I say, tell me what to do. Tell me exactly what to do and I'll do it. I know I can be successful if you just tell me do ABC. I'll do ABC until I'm blue in the face. So when you say the inner work, the overarching thing, one of the things that I've heard you mention is asking yourself deep questions. Do you suggest like writing down the question and letting it kind of sit in your subconscious? What are some tangible things I can do starting today to kind of find out and explore this inner world?
Right. So I am an avid journaler. I think that journaling has so many benefits, and you can look it up. There's lots of research on Google, of course.
I wrote a journal,
But
so you don't have to sell it to me, but to the listeners, absolutely.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, but journaling is such a great, powerful, and magical tool if you choose it to be. And what's great about it is that there's no rules, there's no right or wrong. Like you can journal as often or as little as you want. But I think that to answer your question, it's good to I mean, you can find journal prompts online if you want to kind of go down that route and see what questions really resonate with you so that you can dive deeper, or you can just sit down at a quiet, like, in a quiet place, like say in nature. I'm an avid nature explorer as well. So I think that it's really important to, disconnect from technology and to just be in the wild and to just sit down, and meditation also is very helpful. So I'd say find a quiet place that feels good to your being, sit there and just allow yourself to come up with these questions, because we will naturally have questions,
Mm.
right? Like naturally, I think we all have an explorer within us. And so if someone just, holds a space where they can just be with themselves without any distraction, naturally questions will show up. And so I would suggest writing these questions down. And if you can, if it resonates with you to answer the questions in that moment, then do so. If not, then again, you can just write down the questions, leave it, and let it kind of
Marinate.
sit there, like you were saying. Yeah. And then come back to it.
Mm.
But yeah, I think that the one of the problems or the challenges that we have these days is that there is constant noise and constant shiny objects that
Mm.
take our attention away from who we truly are on the inside. And so I think it's important to know when to not be influenced from an outer force, and
Yeah.
to really, yeah, and to really um hone in on who you truly are. So
No, that answers a question. I love it. Like spending time in nature, spending time in silence, meditation, avid journaling, right? So these are takeaways that someone can do starting today, right? So you have the
mhm,
person who maybe has been in a job for 20 years, to right down to the kid who's kind of confused about life. These are tools that you can use at any age to start to do
absolutely,
that inner work, as you say.
absolutely.
So when we look to answering some of those questions. So we're meditating, we're sitting out in nature, we're doing our journaling. What's the next step that you take people on? If they're doing that kind of thing, where do you come in to make this easier to do that inner work?
Right. So with my coaching, I created a program that walks people through all aspects of their life, which it's kind of a loaded question, so I won't get into it now. But I utilize all of my skills and passions, and I take people on a full circle transformation.
Hmm.
Um, so I have a system that I work with. But in this case, the scenario that you painted for me, how, like, after they've done the journaling and they have, their answers, their questions answered, and I was to insert into that moment, um I would, we would go through what their goals are, like what do they really want, that's not necessarily materialistic, that is maybe a feeling that
Hmm.
they want, because feelings need to be validated as well. Our feelings dictate our actions, right? And then our life is created from our actions. And so from there, I would you know create a plan with my clients and set goals, and then support them in taking inspired action. And there's a fine line between inspired action and action, but it makes a world of difference.
Hmm.
And
I
so
like that
I'll
word, inspired
emphasize.
action. I like that.
I'm
Hmm.
sorry.
I like inspired action. I like that term.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. And again, it makes a huge difference, because sometimes when people hear or they see, do this, do that, and the other, and they do the thing, they do it, but they're like, it's still not working, and I don't get why it's not working. It's because energetically they're not invested. They're
Okay.
doing it in a way where it's just, they don't necessarily believe it. They're doing it because it's there on paper and that's what they're supposed to
It's they're
do.
supposed to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. But inspired action is when you are committed wholeheartedly and you feel the feeling that it brings you, which is, it should be, something that brings you joy and love and inspiration, and empowerment. And when you do the thing with this feeling, it shifts you on a cellular level and it changes your perspective on life. And that's the key difference between inspired action and just action.
Mm.
And so I would support my clients in taking inspired action and to really be fully aligned energetically as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's well explained, and I love the inspired action aspect of it. And 'cause I think a lot of
Mhm.
times we get caught up in life doing things we were supposed to do, and there's no passion or emotion behind that. So, um, yeah, you explained it perfectly. Inspired action. I want to, as we're closing up here, I want to be respectful of your time.
Thank you.
I like that you say love will deliver us peace, and such love must start with self love.
Yeah.
Tell me that about that statement.
Oh man, that is a statement that has derived from a lifetime and beyond of adversity and not knowing anything about self-love. I grew up, despising how I looked in the mirror. I grew up just, I knew nothing about self-love. And so for me to come to that conclusion is it's an emotional statement for me. But I believe it wholeheartedly because, I believe that we can change the world, and by changing our inner world, that will project into the universe. And if we all made that shift, because if you think about it, world peace is the collective of individual inner peace.
Yep.
So the more people, right, the more people get on board with finding that inner peace, and it's going to take generations of work. I realize it will, but
I think people
it
need to
has
hang
to
on to
start
that statement.
somewhere.
Sorry, that statement is so good. World peace is a collective of inner peace. And that light bulb just went off for me when you said that.
Aw,
Everyone has that inner peace. That's what world peace is. World peace
absolutely.
isn't an external thing. It is something that automatically occurs when we all have that inner peace.
Mm,
And
I just got
there's so much
goosebumps.
profundity in that statement. I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, and it's my life work. This is my soul calling to help spread that message and to support as many people as I can to find that inner peace, because I know how it feels like to have inner turmoil and anger and rage, and I know how it feels like to hate passionately, and I would never wish that upon anyone. But since I've emancipated myself from these dark moments and these heavy feelings of despair, my life has changed. I'm so grateful all the time, even when times are tough, and it's been tough for the world in the last couple of years. But I always come back to gratitude, and I always come back to love, because love will guide the way. Um, and I think that unconditional love is our common thread as a human race to find in our human experience.
Yeah,
And I'm a believer of that. And I'll do everything in my power for as long as I live to help support people in that, to share that message. So thank you for bringing that up. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do, because you know we got to rise together. That's what it's all about.
absolutely, absolutely. One final thing before we finish off there. What's the one thing that people can do to love themselves more today?
Uh, that's a really good question. I think that practicing self-love can be a block for people. And I think what helps is connecting with our inner child. because our inner child lives within all of us, and there's a purity that is still alive, that hasn't been jaded. And I think when we remind ourselves of the little boy or the little girl that has been through life and has, you know, has been the, like, because our inner child possess wisdom as well, you know, like as we age and as we experience life, sometimes we can't see the joy in life that we did when we were younger. And
Mm,
so to love yourself is to nurture your inner child and to connect with that, because who can't love an innocent child?
mm.
Yeah,
Remind yourself that you're a child. That, yeah, I like
exactly.
that. I like that.
And be in that energy of playfulness again, and be in the energy of imagination and of wonder, and you know, live your life from that state, and then you'll be surprised, you know, what you see, which was already in front of your face before, but you just didn't see it at the point because, you know, being adults, we're busy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're busy. We forgot how to be children. And so
Exactly.
I have a 3-year-old son, so I'm reminded.
Oh,
Um,
that's amazing.
yeah,
What
he
a
was sent there to
blessing.
remind me not to take myself so seriously.
I love that.
Um, I want to thank you for being on here, one, and thank you for sharing your wisdom, your light, your love, and tell everyone how they can connect with you, how they can find you, how they can hire you, how they can connect with you.
Quasi, thank you so much as well for having me on your podcast. It's been such a joy to connect with you on a deeper level and to share my story. Hopefully, I'm able to inspire someone to take inspired action. But you can find me on my website, which is www.theonecoach.solutions. I'm also on Instagram. My handle is the.one.coach.143, or my email, which is contact at the one coach solutions.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the one coach dot solutions, not dot com,
Yes.
dot solutions.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you very much. And I'm very appreciative for you to be here with me and spending some time with me today.
Thank you so much. Blessed be.